Let's get ready to rumble!
Okay, cool. Let us kick off and try and figure this thing out try and figure out this plane as we fly it. Right. Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema. Can you hear that sound? Can you hear that sound? There's a little bit of a rumbling, and that rumbling might just be something like a sandworm underneath the surface, coming closer. We can feel the proximity alerts as it's coming. Yes, that is right. Dune is almost up, and there will be some talk about Dune today. Anyway, my name is Tosin, and I am the host. I am based in the Midlands in the UK, and joining me off the coast of the UK on an island called the Isle of Wight are Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
And Shaun Harris.
Hiya.
Yes, so we are talking about this because we were complaining on the episode of NFL vs. Cinema last week about how, because Bond had been released, all the films had just been running scared and there was nothing new in the cinema for 2 weeks. Well, this was the week where the chickens came home to roost. It's kind of like they've also, in my head, it's almost kind of like, you know when you have a horse race and you have all the horses just sort of like in their paddocks? Yeah, they're just waiting. They're just sort of waiting. It's like, okay. Is Bond gone? Is close, Claire? Go! And it's like a free-for-all as all the films run out there and try and grab your attention and grab your money until the next big film comes out, which might be Dune. I actually, it's weird. I don't think Dune is quite being seen as a blockbuster, like a pre-packaged blockbuster quite yet. But, so this week, what we usually do on this show, if you haven't listened to us before, is that we go to the cinema and we watch a couple of films. We watch films. We rate them out of 5. We stay at home and watch a couple of things, rate them out of 5. And at the end of the show, we will tell you who has won, who has given us more bang for our buck. We usually do 3 and 3, but based on what people have watched this week, we'll see what we are going to do. So, shall we kick off first? Yes, sir. Shaun, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, we could save June, I guess, until you guys have actually seen it, because I'm pretty certain you'll be watching it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you see, this is the thing, because obviously over the last couple of weeks, we've gotten quite good at figuring out what each one of the other people were going to watch and decide, okay, cool, if Sharon's probably going to watch that, Sharon's probably going to watch that, so I'm going to watch that for a little bit of variety. And I did that this week because the film that I watched, I was pretty sure that because we'd had like no films for 2 weeks, Shaun was going to see everything. I mean, you pretty much said so at the end of the show last week. You were like, oh, there's 3 films coming out tomorrow night. I think I'm going to live in the cinema for the weekend. And you were going to see everything. So I picked the one film that I was pretty sure you were not going to watch. I was like, of all the films that are out, this is the film that I do not think Shaun will watch. And I'm pretty sure Sharon's going to run a mile from it. That should give you a clue. That should give you a clue of the kind of film that, as you listen on, you will realize that we have our own particulars of things. And I was thinking that Dune will be one of those ones that let's keep it for next week, because I think you saw a preview screening, Shaun. And
I did, yes.
Yeah, and it's only been released in cinemas today, which means that with the film being 2.5 hours long, we haven't had a chance to see it. So yeah, I think we'll keep it for next week. But next week, I don't care what you guys have seen. That's what I'm seeing. I don't care if it means that it's the only film that we've all seen all week. That's the film I'm seeing. But okay, so Shaun, tell us. Well, actually, no, let's go this way. Sharon, you tell us what it is that you watched in the cinema, and then Shaun can give us his laundry list, and then I can tell you the film that I've teased.
I saw Ridley Scott's The Last Duel.
Don't worry, I'm still here. Carry on. So Ridley Scott's The Last Duel. That is Matt Damon and Adam Driver fighting in France, is it?
Yes, Jodie Comer and Ben Affleck popping up, and a few other people. You go, oh, they're in it, popping up.
All right, cool, good stuff. And Shaun, tell us the laundry list. What did you see?
Yes, well, apart from June, which was so I saw June. I did see The Last Duel, so that was the other one I went to see, and I saw Halloween Kills. Yep. And Let There Be Carnage. Venom.
Venom. Let There Be Carnage. Yeah, I was so looking forward to that.
Strange. That's what I was thinking.
I was like, oh wow, I couldn't.
I had to go and see it purely. a possible hatchet job, you know.
I think you had to see that for completion's sake. For completion's sake. All right, cool. So you saw that, and I saw a film. The reason why Sharon would not have seen it and would have run a mile is because it's an animated film called Ron's Gone Wrong. I saw a film called Ron's Gone Wrong, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's what we had in the cinema. What do we have at home this week?
Did I say I saw Halloween Kills as well?
Yeah, you said Halloween Kills.
Okay, that's right.
You said okay. So if we're pushing Dune to next week, we have Halloween Kills, we have The Last Duel, and we have Venom. Let there be carnage. Venom. Let there be carnage. And what did I say? Ron's Gone Wrong. All right, cool. What did we see at home? Shaun, go ahead.
Well, I saw quite a lot of stuff. I found something quite interesting on the Fire Stick, on the Amazon Fire Stick. They have movies, IMDb movies. And I just happened to watch. They got a lot of war stuff there. A lot of Swedish, Dutch, and Latvian and Russian films. And I saw. Well, apart from watching, I've seen quite a lot, but the film I probably talk about most is called. It was called Tankers. It's got another name as well, Invincible. But there's a couple of other films that are called Invincible. So, but yeah, so this is a Russian movie.
All right, cool. So Invincible, Tankers in brackets. Sharon, what did you see?
I saw one of the Sky premiere releases on Sky Cinema. Called The Little Things with Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek.
Ooh.
So I saw that on Sky Cinema.
Okay, cool. The Little Things on Sky Cinema. And I saw a TV show featuring Steve Martin and Martin Short on Disney Plus called Only Murders in the Building.
Ooh.
Yeah, called Only Murders, and it's and I also saw something called Your Guide to the Attack of the Hollywood Cliches on Netflix. Which is a bit like the brief history of swear words kind of thing, but it was done by Charlie Brooker. All right, cool. So let us have a look. Let's go. Let's see where we're gonna go. Okay, so Shaun's gonna come with this. I'll tell you what. Let us start. Okay, we're gonna try and go for 4 films in the cinema today. 4 films at home. We're gonna give ourselves 5 minutes for each one of them, so that we could see if we can blast through these as quickly as possible. And I don't think any of these films is particularly bigger than any of the other ones, quite frankly, when it comes to like a big tentpole thing. So, Shaun, we'll let you kick us off. Because you're such a John Carpenter fan and because you love him and you love the original Halloween, I'll tell you what, let's kick off with Halloween Kills. The 18th sequel in the franchise of Halloween, where Michael Myers is somehow not dead yet.
That's it. Or keeps coming back to life. So most people sort of know the theme. So you know the story. So this is a story. This carries on from the last one, and you've got Jamie Lee Curtis's character is rushed to the hospital with another policeman. They're in intensive care, and obviously Michael Myers is still around causing some nasty bits of stuff. And so that's basically it. So he turns up, he does a few things to some people, and that's the basic premise of the story. But it gets a little bit different in that the whole town now is like the whole town sort of turns up and goes, "Evil must die tonight. Evil must die tonight." So all the town get together and they get in little groups and they go off hunting Michael Myers. Of course, things go a bit awry, like they would. So.
What do you mean things go on?
The usual tropes of sort of, a car like...
Someone gets stabbed at some point.
Right.
I was totally not expecting that.
There's like one of the groups are in a car and, it's like, oh, what's over there? Let's go and have a look over there. Oh dear, we know what's going to happen. Yeah, that type of thing. So you've got all this, and then there's this scene in the hospital where it's like they think someone's Michael Myers, and this whole mob, and I'm not kidding, the police, everybody, they just all like trying to chase this character into the hospital. So yeah, a bit, I don't know. Funny enough, I thought it was absolutely all over the place and absolutely awful, and I didn't even think it was a comedy or anything like that. I thought it was the most dire load of nonsense, ridiculous. You know me and my ridiculous tropes about things that will happen. It's like, oh, come on. You know what I mean? And there's like a couple of people in one of the house where the original murder took place, and Big John and Little John, you know. So, and I didn't know if they wanted to be a comedy, if it was trying to be a comedy, but it was just, to me, it was all over the place, and it was really, really stupid. Mm-hmm. It's quite funny that, because after that, I had a friend, Joe went to see it, and he really loved it. And that's like, I was like, how could you? It was just like, you know.
Okay, yeah. So I think the friend of the show, Joe, obviously he goes and he puts what he thinks on Facebook, and it's kind of like what you said about Halloween Kills is what I expected, because I mean, after all these years, I don't understand. I don't see how you're still trying to find anything new in Halloween.
That's it.
I actually don't. I really don't understand how you're trying to find anything new. and he was kind of like, oh wow, and I was like, okay. And what he said about Dune was totally opposite to what essentially he's had like an opposite week. Where
he's had an opposite week. Yeah,
he's had an opposite week. But okay, so that was what you thought about Halloween Kills. So Halloween Kills. You said that. I mean, obviously, you love John Carpenter, and I would imagine that the original Halloween for you is one of those yes moments.
Yes, definitely, yes.
So anything that's going to be onto a hide into nothing, trying to follow onto that. But
and even as it's ridiculous as well. You know, it's the situations are stupid that people put themselves in. That's what that bugs me a lot in films. You know,
especially
why would
horror
you do
films,
that?
I'm guessing,
especially horror films. You know, is why don't you turn the lights on? Why don't you? You know. Why do you go up? Surely, if you hear someone upstairs, you're going to call the police, aren't you? You're not going to, you know, all wander up and have a look around, are you? You think, oh, let's get the hell out of Dodge, you know. Especially if you know, some things
especially if you live in a town that Michael Myers keeps coming back to every couple of years and killing like a swathe of it.
Stabby, scream, run. You think.
Yeah, I mean, who even moves there? I mean, the house prices in that place must be in the toilet.
That's what I mean.
This house is for sale because every occupant was stabbed to death by this strange man.
Yeah, it's like, but
people down the road was empty for the same reason.
Yeah, people must keep moving there because there's new people to stab. There's new people to stab each time.
So on the whole, I can't give this more than a 2-star. This is a 2-star for me. This is, pretty. I thought was awful. I really did.
Okay, cool. Shall we leave it there and give no more time to Halloween Kills? Sure. I mean, I did think it was weird when they said they were going to redo Halloween, and it was going to be the person who was going to write it. One of them was a comedian, Danny McBride. But anyway, what do you know? Now we go over to Netflix and Friends, and we are going to kick off with The Little Things, which is something that Sharon, you saw on Sky.
Yeah, this is so the Sky premiere for this week. It was starring Denzel Washington and has Rami Malek and Jared Leto. Basically, Denzel Washington is a small town deputy sheriff working sort of like traffic and all sorts of things, and he's asked to go into the city to pick up some evidence. And you think, fair enough, he's like a small town guy suddenly turning up in the city, and as he goes into the police station, it becomes apparent that everyone knows him. And as the story develops, it turns out that he was a murder detective in one of their sort of murder squads, and he was quite well known. His reputation sort of precedes him wherever he goes. He's got a reputation of like a Mountie. He always gets his man. And before he left, he was investigating a series of murders. And it just happens that at the same time that he's there this time, there's been another murder that fits the pattern of his murders. It's like girls being kidnapped, tied up, tortured, and then sort of posed, and nasty things happen to these girls.
Yeah.
And he's been investigating it. And the person investigating the current series of murders is Rami Malek, and he's a detective as well. And basically they then join forces, and they both suspect that Jared Leto, who's this like bit of a weirdo loner, is our man. And so the film unfolds as a cat and mouse. But if they don't have like a TM next to their name, like weirdo loner. Ooh.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, does Jared Leto play anything but weirdo loners nowadays?
It seems to be his like niche market. And so then the film progresses in a little bit of cat and mouse between like, is he really the killer or isn't he the killer? Are they on the right track or are they trying to make the evidence fit? And so the film basically is that it's a whodunit, and or you know, did they do it? And yes, I'll leave it there because otherwise it goes in spoiler territory. But yes, it's a crime thriller drama thing with the odd twist here and there.
All right, cool. So, with that being said, what did you think about it? First of all, you know when they say something like, you know, Denzel Washington is playing a character, he's never going to be a small town sheriff, is he? I mean, when you say like, it's like, you know, it's like we cast Denzel Washington. That's just, you cast him for that scene when he walks into the police station. Everybody's like, oh, it's Hutch. Oh, something like, and they only ever know by one name, by one word. Okay, so
Deke. Yeah.
Deke. Okay, so what did you think?
I thought it was okay. I think the names would suggest that it probably should be better than it was. Yep. I think the names carry this film really. If you take away that out and you put it on a television drama, you'd be going like, eh. So I would say it's well made. The cast do their jobs.
Yep.
But to me, it wasn't anything sort of outstanding, spectacular. And I think they constantly seem to be hunting for sort of different gimmicks or different like twists to put in these films because just telling a story seems to be a bit unfashionable at the moment. And so part of me gets a little bit tired of this. Like, can't you just tell a story without resorting to different things or different sort of setups? So I would say it probably did what it set out to do, make a reasonable, competent film. But to me, it was no more than that. It was no more than just a competent, reasonable film. So I would give it a 3, and no more than that.
Okay, so that is a 3 and so it's a film, not a TV series.
It's a film on that was released that released on Sky Cinema thing on television. I'm
going to figure this. I got to figure out why this has happened because you have there's been a couple of films like this that have been released recently where I have seen the cast and I've wondered how did they get all these guys together for something that wasn't that great. And I'm not sure whether these films were made before the pandemic, whether it was made during the pandemic where everybody was freaked out that they were never going to work again. So they just said, yeah, what is it? Give it to me. I haven't worked for like 18 months. Get me out of the house or anything like that. But there's some things, especially a lot of stuff that's been showing up on streaming platforms. There's a film called Infinite on Amazon Prime that has Mark Wahlberg in it. It has Mark Wahlberg, directed by Peter Berg, has Chiwetel Ejiofor, and you're like, how's this film gone straight to streaming?
Yeah.
and it makes me wonder or was it just something where they thought we need to get the industry moving again? We need to give like the sound people and the less fancied people a job. But but if that's the case, if that's the reason, it's commendable. Otherwise, it's just weird.
I think they are all three Oscar winners. You think they should be the top of their game, but to me, it wasn't. It wasn't. It didn't deliver what it promised.
All right, cool. Anyway, so we move on. So that's 3 stars for The Little Things with Denzel Washington and the weird loner Jared Leto. The guy needs to play something where he's like a grandpa soon. I mean, because even his stab at being a superhero, Morbius, is a weird loner. But it's all right, cool. So now we go back to cinema. We go into Ron's Gone Wrong. Now this is, as I said, it's an animation movie, and it's a film that it reminds me so much of like other films. A couple of months ago, I reviewed a film called The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and this film, a bit like how when we spoke about Gunpowder Milkshake, and I spoke about a film on Netflix called Kate, which you feel as if the people who wrote these 2 films were in the same cafe and somebody overheard something from the other person. And the same thing with The Mitchells and the Machines versus Machines and Ron's Gone Wrong. You feel like there was 2 people who were in the same cafe and kind of overheard each person's ideas, because Mitchells versus Machines starts off with this guy who is kind of like a Steve Jobs Apple type who goes to this big thing and he reveals the new thing that he wants to give to everybody in the world, which is this new robot which is going to replace your phone and blah 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 blah, and then things go wrong and then the robot's trying to take over the world. This also has the similarities are endless. They both have Olivia Colman in the cast. the tech genius at the beginning who's talking about how he wants to change the world is black. It's just kind of like, this came off the same hymn sheet. This guy's also, what he's given the whole world is an upgrade on a phone. It's a robot. And this robot that he's given, which is called the B-Bot, because the company is called Bubble. So it's Bubble, B-Bot, Bubble Bot. And it goes out to all these kids. And these kids, it's kind of like taking how kids use their phones today. And this is where the film started diverging. That one was end of the world, machines take over. This becomes a much more intimate, tiny story. And the similarities between this and Mitchell's vs. Machines, there's similarities between this and Free Guy. When you have like an AI thing that has been built and what actually happens with it. Because what happens is you have similarities with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The main character of the film, who is a guy called Barney, he is kind of like Charlie in that his family, they're not that well off. You see his dad trying to make deals at home, trying to sort of sell all these different things. And the thing he wants is a bubble bot, because the bubble bot is becoming so big that even at school, you know how when kids arrive with their bicycles and then they have like a bike park, they have a bubble bot park where every kid in the school has one of these things, and he's the only one that doesn't have one. And then this becomes almost kind of like a Black Mirror episode for kids, where his dad manages to get a bot that's fallen off the back of a truck, but because the bot has fallen out, is defective. And so the whole idea is that once you switch on this bot, it goes to your social media platforms, it downloads everything about you, and it just follows you around all day, giving you what you want, like giving you the things that you wanted to hear it say, giving you connecting you to the people you want, showing you all the sort of like different things. And you see the way different people use it. There's somebody who's constantly trying to do pranks and is trying to get likes on people to like him on social media. There's a girl who is constantly vlogging and saying, hi, it's Ava here, this is what we're going to talk about today, just trying to get people to sort of like, tune into their channel. And every single person's trying to do this apart from Barney. But when he finally gets this bubble bot, it's broken and it doesn't connect to it, so he has to teach this bot how to be a friend. And the film sort of morphs, and it's kind of one of these things that goes down the same lines of, ooh, isn't technology bad? Isn't technology horrible? Look what we've done with it. And wouldn't it be better if we all just went outside and hung out and we were friends with each other and all that? And there are good things about this film. I think the robot is voiced by Zach Galifianakis. And I think he actually does really, really well. There's, another film that made me think of was Big Hero 6, because Baymax, the robot in Big Hero 6, he's like the best robot. I mean, sorry, but Baymax is like, he is the gold standard. And there's elements of this where it gets a bit close to that, because you then have, so you have the guy who created the robots, but then you have the businessman, his business partner, who is just all about, we want to take all these kids' information so we can sell stuff to them. And he goes, what? If one of these bots is defective and it's out there, we need to recall this thing, and it becomes a bit like E.T. As you can see, I can just probably explain this film using other films. It becomes a bit like E.T., where there's this sort of like also massive, almost government manhunts to try and get this robot, which has been called Ron, and get him back and shut him off, because this is not the way things are supposed to work. And there's Ready Player One in there, and there's all sorts of stuff. As I said, it's a bit Black Mirror-ish. It's quite good. It goes along quite well. I found myself really, really liking and really, really enjoying it. I would give it a 3 out of 5. I think there were bits where I was like, okay, cool, but if you're gonna do that, and if you're gonna do that, and it doesn't quite go into the whole thing. The whole technology bad. Full stop. It's like, no, technology is a bit kind of stuff, it's almost as if you can feel it being made by people who are like, oh, these kids today just on their phones, nobody knows how to have a conversation anymore. It's kind of a thing. So I thought it was a 3 out of 5, and I thought it was quite well done, and it was quite well done to have elements of all these other different things, as I kept mentioning, that come into the film without totally just being those other things. So I would give Ron's Got Wrong a 3 out of 5. And now that is it with Ron's Got Wrong on cinemas. We go back home and we go to Invincible, in brackets.
Sorry, Indestructible. I said that wrong. It's Indestructible, not Invincible.
Okay, Indestructible. So Indestructible, in brackets, tankers. So Indestructible tankers. So Shaun, tell us, what is this about?
Okay, this is basically the story. It's based on a true story of something that happened just outside Leningrad, which more or less stopped the siege. And it's a story of in the early part of the war, the Russians had these tanks called KV-1s, which the armor was really, really, really super thick, and the German tanks at that time couldn't penetrate. And it wasn't until later on in the war that the German tanks could, and being a tank aficionado, that's probably one of my favourite bits of World War II is all the different tanks. So basically, it's this KV-1 and a couple of T-34s, and they managed to blunt the German attack. So, and it's basically a story. This tank crew, I guess, a little bit like Fury. But what's good about this is that they go back, and they have breakdowns. Their tank breaks down, so they have to go out on foot and charge as normal infantry, and then they come back and the tank's being fixed. And so basically, the story is it's a war movie, but it's about this tank, about this KV-1 tank, based on a true story that just takes out about 20 German tanks and half tracks and all the German armor. So that's basically the story, is this one tank. Obviously there's other tanks involved, but it's this one tank. It takes all the hits, and although it gets sort of, should we say, a little bit disabled and mechanically wise goes a little bit wrong, they can't actually take the tank out. So it just sort of hides and takes out the German armor. So it's I mean, as a war film, I quite enjoyed it as a war film, and it was nice to see it. I mean, it was a Russian film, so it was nice to see it from a Russian point of view. Yeah. And it was nice to see a KV-1 rather than, because with Russian tanks and Russian movies, it's always the T-34, 85, or that's what it is. There's masses of them, and this was a KV-1. So, and it did look like a KV-1. I must say the German armor did seem a little bit CGI'd. I mean, it was. I mean.
Well, the German tanks.
The German tanks. I mean, they looked the part, although they were later versions and not earlier versions. I mean, if I was to be really super picky, I could have picked up. But they definitely looked like P4s, Panzer IVs. But I don't know, they seemed a bit CGI-ish, because I thought they look a bit good. And they always were like, when they get destroyed, it's always they burst into flame. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah.
So a little bit.
So with this, I'm actually a bit intrigued, because with war movies, they tend to fall into two categories. I mean, they're either the ones that is like, isn't war some great big boys on adventure? Like, for instance, you have in your background at the moment, you have Guns of Navarone, which I think at that time war movies were made a bit more like that. Then you have ones that are a bit more gritty, that isn't war hell.
Yeah. I think that, so up until recently, it used to be, the way I always look at it is like your German films that were made, your Second World German films were very much anti-war, and very much anti-war. Your American war films were very much gung-ho and look what we can do. Yeah. And I think the British war movies I would put down as being sort of in between. They were generally, I think some of the earlier, the British war films are quite good, because they need the one thing or the other. And to me, I thought this was in the category of, it was just a war movie. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't anti-war, it wasn't pro-war. It was just a film, because you do tend to get, I think, these days, you know what I mean? There's a narrative of, this is really, really anti-war. Isn't war really, really bad? Or isn't war, but this was just a good old-fashioned, straight-up
adventure
movie,
kind of thing.
A nice shoot map, yeah. The equipment was pretty authentic. As I say, maybe the German stuff was CGI, because I don't expect they'd have got that much in the way of Panzer IVs. But the German tanks, the Russian tanks looked quite good, and it was really nice to see, when the tanks break down and they have to go back, and they're back in their own lines, and it's different because I've not seen too many Russian war films, so. Yeah. And I wouldn't say this was particularly propaganda or anything like that. It was, as I say, it was just a really, really good old-fashioned war films. It was nice to see the KV-1s. The acting was fairly good. It was a bit like
characters at all, like the different. Normally with a tank film, you tend to be about the crew, isn't it? It's like
exactly. Yeah. Have you ever seen Cross of Iron, Sharon?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Cross of Iron? Yeah. It reminded me a little bit of that. Reminded me a little bit of Cross of Iron. So, but yeah. So I would give this one really, really good, apart from the CGI tanks. So it's going to get a 3. This one's going to get a 3. So it's going to be a solid 3 for this one. Good old-fashioned war movie.
Okay, cool. Old-fashioned war movie. So carrying on, going back to cinema. And now we're going to the film that I would look at this week, and I would say this is the film that you would actually want to be, if you wanted to see something quality, this is the film that you would be going to the cinema to see this week, because you would think, we've got Ridley Scott, we've got some sort of pedigree behind this should be good. So this is either going to be the highlight or is going to be the letdown of this episode. Sharon, will you tell us a little bit about the Last Duel? No pressure.
Right. The Last Duel is based on true events, apparently, and it is set in the 1380s. So we're in a Europe which is still during the 100 Years' War. So Britain and France, or the different French principalities, are battling it out more or less constantly. And so there's war is a way of life, and it's set in France. And we meet our three main characters. And the story is actually divided into three parts. I'll describe them as the husband, the rapist, and the wife.
Yeah.
So the first part is the husband, which is played by Matt Damon, and he's called Jacques Le Carouge. And he is a fighter. He is a warrior by profession and by training and by mindset. And so basically war is his business. So he's a hard man. And he has had this arranged marriage, effectively, to Jodie Comer's character, the wife, and he married her for her dowry, for the property she brought to the marriage, and to just improve his prospects. And she's much younger than him. She's about 20 years younger than he is, and she's sort of beautiful, and he's like this weathered older man. And then I'm
actually quite happy that they addressed that they've addressed the fact that there is supposed to be an age difference between Matt Damon and Jodie. It's not just supposed to be like, oh, look, he's so handsome that he obviously, but anyway, never mind.
Noticeable that he is an older man looking for a younger wife to provide him with an heir and to provide him with money and funds and land. And his great rival is someone who started off being his friend, this Jacques, I've forgotten his name.
Adam
Driver's character.
Adam Driver.
Yeah, his character's called Jacques, but I forget the character's name. He is his great rival. They fought together, but he has a knack of being charming, and so he has got in with the princeling who played by Ben Affleck, who was like the son of the king, and who's a bit of a wastrel. He's a womanizer. He's a drunkard, but he's sort of got in with that crowd, and so he's won favour by being awarded lands that he hadn't necessarily earned, and titles that maybe weren't necessarily his, and he has become a little bit entitled. So there's been this rift between Matt Damon's character and Adam Driver's character, and then in the middle of this is this beautiful young wife. And one day Adam Driver's character goes to the house when Matt Damon's away and when the servants are away, and he rapes her. That's no secret, that's no spoiler. And then the story unfolds as you see the same events from three different perspectives. You see it from the husband's point of view, the events that led up to this event, and then what happened afterwards. You see it from Adam Driver's point of view, as in like how he interpreted different signals and different looks and different exchanges, as how he interpreted it in one way. And then the final chapter is called The Truth, which is basically Jodie Comer's account, saying that this is the story, this is her marriage, this is her relationship with both of these men, and these are the consequences of what happened. And the last duel is basically because his honour was outraged by the fact that his wife was assaulted, because she effectively is his property, and you can't rape a woman, and the offence is against her. The offence is against her husband, because she belongs to her husband. So Matt Damon says, I seek vengeance or justice for this crime against me. I'm going to challenge this man to a duel. And the film then progresses about the duel.
Okay.
Shawnee.
All right, okay. By the way, earlier you said the way you looked at it is pretty much like, was it the husband, the rapist, and the wife?
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been probably gotten more bums and seats as a title, but I can see that there's problems with it. I mean, I think it's definitely a title that makes you sit up and take notice. So, but anyway, Shaun, what do you think of this?
Okay, yeah. My thoughts on this, I would say, it was. I mean, the thing I noticed, I thought. The first part, I mean, Matt Damon's story is the first part. And, I mean, he played that fairly well. I think he's been fairly consistent lately, Matt Damon, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
But all his scenes, it was always snowy or foggy or grimy and horrible and not very nice. And it always just, and I thought there must be some time during the thing when some of the weather's fairly pleasant.
I thought took that. Sorry, just my interpretation on that was I took that because he's a hard character.
Yeah.
And the guy's been like a cold character. All his scenes are like a pale grey colours.
Yeah.
Whereas with Adam Driver's, where he's like this charming man, a lot of he's got more colour in his scenes and there's more life in his scenes. So I thought it was just like to distinguish the two characters. I think it probably was.
I think that's I was concur with that. I was just about to say that's probably. No, that's all right. That's fine. That's fine. You told it for me. You told it much more eloquently than I could have, Sharon. So no, I'm pleased you did. But yes, so what can I say here? I mean, I did like Adam Driver I thought his acting was pretty good. Matt Damon was solid. Who's the actress? Jodie Comer.
Jodie Comer.
I didn't quite have her, especially in her bit. I don't think she quite cut the mustard myself, and I don't mean that in a horrible sort of way. And it was difficult with this one. With me, it was difficult to say if I liked it or not. I found it a little bit too long. It had really, really good moments, but there were times when I was like a little bit skeptical of things, you know. So some things didn't quite match up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Sharon, what did you think? How many stars?
I liked it. I thought it was gripping. I went to see it with a friend and we discussed it afterwards. I thought it was pivoting the period, but I thought it was quite modern as well in some of its aspects, where it looked at sexual violence against women. So I really rated it. I really liked it, and I didn't notice the passing of time. Whereas Bond, I found almost interminable in places. I was thinking, oh, get on with it. I didn't actually notice how long it was. I was in the story the whole time. So I would definitely give it a 4. I thought it was a quality bit of filmmaking. I enjoyed it, and I thought, it had something to say. So I rated it. I thought, so for me, it was a 4.
Sure.
Yeah. For me, it's a 3. I'm going to give it a 3 because I had a couple of issues with it. But it's a good, solid film. I mean, I wasn't like disappointed with it or anything like that, but it didn't have the wow factor for me.
All right, cool. But I'll tell you one thing, that this is a film that I actually want to see because I was quite happy when I heard about the structure of the film. I was like, ooh, that's different.
I think it's called the Rashomon effect. Where you show the same effect. You show the same effect from a whole bunch of different points. Stories,
But I think the way that they've done it, I think like what Sharon was saying, I think it's actually quite topical. Like, you know, showing it from a man's point of view and showing it from a woman's point of view. I think that's quite topical.
Yeah, and how one signal might be interpreted like a glance. For the woman, it's just that I'm just looking at you. But to man, it's like she's clearly flirting with me.
Yeah,
you know, though that sort of thing. I thought they did that very well. To my eyes, I thought they did that very well.
Yeah, well, and this makes me more interested in the film because the trailers and everything like that make it look like it's just like, you know, let's try and do Gladiator again or Kingdom of Heaven again and fight. And I'm like, but I think that it seems to have more of a brain, which I'm quite happy about. I'm quite happy about that. And I think we need to go see this film because there's been a lot of stuff online talking about how it hasn't been doing that well, and that's because every cinema is showing Bond 15 times a day, and the last Duel once.
It was mind you, it is an 18 certificate, isn't it?
It's an 18. That's going to limit it as well.
That probably got something to do with it.
And it does stay on there with big head, and you know this has got strong violence, strong scenes of sexual violence. So, to me, I didn't think the sexual violence. I thought it was very well done. Yeah, normally one of my triggers is like I don't want to watch you be titillated by sort of this assault. Yeah. And I think they filmed it sensitively enough that you didn't feel like it was in any way
exploitative. Yeah. That's it. So, I must say I'll agree with Sharon on that one. Yeah, it was. Because
I'm just like no, because often the way they film it, even the lighting and I'm just like thinking, no, you're doing this. It's supposed to be this violent assault, and you're making it look attractive.
Yeah.
Ugly scene, you can't make it attractive.
Yeah,
when you see it from the different points of view, that they didn't make it anything other than what it was.
What did you think about Batfleck's performance?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, I don't understand why he suddenly was all sweary. I mean, there's hardly any swearing in the film, and suddenly his one scene is like, I thought, why are you suddenly turned into this foul-mouthed fiend? But I think maybe that was his character, that he was completely outside of the rules that applied to the society, because the way he behaved was just like vile. But I thought he did that character well.
Okay, cool. And now we'll move on. So far, it's the TV show. It's the thing we've watched of the week, the film of the week, or whatever you want to say. Okay, now we go into Only Murders in the Building. So, Only Murders in the Building. This is a murder mystery, as you might guess from the title, on Disney Plus, starring Martin Short, Steve Martin, also co-written by Steve Martin. And it is 10 episodes long. They just finished, I think, about a couple of weeks ago because they were releasing an episode a week, as Disney Plus is wont to do. And the whole idea behind it is that there is this building in New York called the Arconian. And it's one of these old school buildings where, like, people who live in there, or because it's in Manhattan, they have to have quite a bit of money. And like they even if you go into the flats that they live in, they're not really flats. They're kind of like suites that they all live in. And you have Steve Martin plays a character called Charles Hayden Savage, who used to be on a TV show called Brazos, like in the early 90s. And it's essentially kind of like a Kojak, like that kind of TV show. And he had like this catchphrase: "This sends the investigation in a whole new direction." That's his thing that everybody wants. Anybody who recognizes him wants him to say that. Martin Short used to be a Broadway theater or an off Broadway, as he keeps saying, theater director who's fallen on hard times. And you have Selena Gomez, who is this young girl who lives in the building, and they're wondering, how the heck can you afford to live in this building? You're like 26 or something like that. But what brings them all together is that they are all fans of this murder podcast. And one day when there's like a fire alarm in their building, they go to this nearby diner and they each realize that they're all listening to the same podcast. And so they all get together and they're like, "Oh, wow, okay, cool. What are you listening to? What do you think about this? What do you think about it?" Because it's a true crime podcast and they're all really, really into true crime podcasts. Then, when they get back to their building, they realize that the reason that there was a fire alarm to clear everybody out was, well, while there was a fire alarm to clear everybody else, somebody got killed and there was a murder in their building. And so they go, "Oh, we don't think it's a murder." And so they go to the detective and they go, "Oh, have you checked this? Have you checked that? Have you checked that?" And the detective just looks at them and goes, "What true crime podcast are you listening to? Get the hell out of my face." It was a suicide. And then the rest of the show comes up as they start finding out things and they become convinced that this was not a suicide. And so they decide to do their own podcast for all the different reasons. For Martin Short, it's because he has no project and he wants something to actually to get involved in. He wants something to direct again. For the Steve Martin character, it's kind of like you get the idea that he's a loner. Should have been played by Jared Leto. But it's you get the feeling that he's a loner, and like this is the first time he's actually had any interaction with other people, and he's just kind of enjoying that. And the Selena Gomez character Mabel, it's the kind of thing where each episode reveals something new about the different characters, and it goes. But obviously, so in some ways, it's very much a murder mystery. In some ways there's some ways in which it's almost quite straightforward, and you can see that Steve Martin knows his murder mysteries. He's a fan of them, and he's put all these things in there that you would expect in a murder mystery. But bringing it up to date to the whole idea of this true crime podcast is quite funny. And then the way that the podcast starts getting out there and people start listening to it and all that. And then you have people who show up, like Nathan Lane shows up for a while, Tina Fey shows up for a while, all doing different bits that sort of bring there's red herrings aplenty that sort of like get thrown to the screen. But there's some really, really nice grace notes that I like. Like they have one episode that is silent. They have an entirely silent episode. Well, and that's because it's mostly done from the perspective of a deaf character. So
that's interesting.
So it's kind of like, so it's not quite silent. You hear things like doors, with there's bits where it tries to replicate what it's like for a deaf person. But essentially, you don't hear any words said for the whole episode. There's a bit where they have a seduction scene. They have a seduction scene by Scrabble. So they have a Scrabble seduction scene, which I was kind of like, I was watching it going, okay, now that's just brazen. That's absolutely brazen. So it has all these fun because Sting shows up for a while because Sting is one of their suspects. It kind of tells you what kind of investigation they're doing when they think Sting lives in the building. Sting could be the suspect. Sting could be the killer. And then they have this whole... It just carries on, and I think it's actually a very, very good murder mystery. It's quite a good comedy... It's quite a good sort of comedy mystery thing. I think it gives me so much appreciation for Steve Martin and Martin Short. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm glad that they're still on screen. I'm glad that we still have them on screen, because I think that the sort of banter and the way the chemistry they go back and forth is quite good. And Selena Gomez fits in quite well into that. It is really about Steve Martin and Martin Short as friends, and you can tell that they're friends, sort of sparking up each other. And Selena Gomez gets chucked into that. I thought it was quite good. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I do not like the fact that it ends on a very kind of like, ooh, guess what's going to happen in season 2? Because you're kind of like, it ends in that way. You're kind of like, oh, but come on. This is the idea behind the show. The idea behind the show, I think, is a 1-season thing. It's nice, it's contained, and I feel like, essentially, I don't understand what they're going to do in the second season, and I just don't think it's going to work as well. It's going to be a bit like Halloween, where you're going to be like, why would you live there? But but all in all, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. All right, now we are going to go back to go back to cinema. Final film in cinema, and this is Shaun. I knew you were going to do this. You were going to put yourself through the pain.
I had to put myself through the pain, didn't I? I could probably sum this up in about a minute and a half, I expect.
Okay, cool. Then go for it. This is Venom. Let There Be Carnage, the sequel to Venom, a film which, if I remember correctly, Shaun, you absolutely loved, didn't you?
This was awful from the start. It was absolutely terrible. It was a story of Venom. You know Venom, he's the character. He goes in. It's really, really contrived to see this serial killer. The serial killer's been about for years, and there's a bit of a backstory that sort of flashes back a bit in time. When he was a kid, he had to go to this orphanage and he got bullied, but there was one girl that he really, really liked. Anyway, so he obviously becomes infected, becomes Carnage, breaks out, decides he's going to go and rescue this girl from, who's a little bit like Banshee out of X-Men with a loud voice, you know, when she wants to. So, and obviously we know with these symbiotes, they don't like noise. But anyway, let's cut through all that nonsense and say absolutely terrible. And Woody Harrelson, I mean, I think I've only really seen him in one good thing, which was that 3 Billboards.
Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Yeah. We know that along with Stanley Tucci, Woody Harrison is one of those people that gets your blood boiling.
Oh, Tosin, this is dire, man. This is the most ridiculous, over the top, ridiculous parody. It's absolutely terrible. I squirmed and squiddled and was like, I just really, really wanted to get up and smack the screen. You know, it was a really, really, in my opinion, a terrible, terrible, awful, dire. It was all over the place. No real story. Trying to be funny. Wasn't funny.
Okay, you're talking about the film now. I thought you were still talking about Woody Harrelson.
Oh yeah. Well, he's all over the place.
I'm guessing this is going to be a 4 then.
Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely blooming ridiculous. And as I say, I'm going to sum this up. And this.
Three's not looking good either then.
I've not had a really good time. You know, these couple of movies with Halloween and that. This is going to get a 1. This is going to get a 1. Ooh. It's awful. It might, obviously it's self-opinion, but it's just horrible. It's all over the place. And Woody Harrelson is just wow.
He was all right.
And it's not funny. It's not funny. And the CGI's, it's all CGI, and at least Deadpool's funny. I think I don't know if this is. I think this has moments where there's trying to be comedic elements.
Yeah.
And they just don't work. They just don't work. So yeah.
Sure, Sharon, what did you say about Woody Harrelson?
He was all right in the first Zombieland. I think that's where he started that shtick, isn't it? Where he was like he was playing himself, but just a bit out there with it.
I didn't really like him in that, to be fair. I didn't like him. I've not liked him in. He's not liked him in anything. Pardon?
Okay.
What's the other one?
Games.
Hunger Games. He's hardly in Hunger Games.
Oh, Hunger Games.
In Hunger Games. Yeah, he's not in there much.
Yeah. So okay, what about Tom Hardy?
I like Tom Hardy a lot, but I don't like him in this. I think he's trying too hard and he's overacting. It's not a good. I don't know. He's just, to me, I felt like in this he's just doing it for the bucks. He's not really trying. There's no effort there to make it.
He gets a writing credit, like he wrote some of the story.
Oh, right. Okay, really?
Yeah, yeah. He wrote some of the story that he's. I think he's quite a Venom fan himself. But well, the thing is,
I don't know what reviews it's got because I don't look. Is it what sort of reviews has it got? Is it?
They largely agree with you, Shaun.
Do they? Oh, right. Okay. Cool. That's all right.
They largely agree with you. I mean, the truth is, I mean, the only thing I can say about this is compared to the first one, I've only seen the trailers for both of them. I haven't seen the first one. I've tried to watch it a couple of times, and each time I just think, I've got better things to do with my life. I just feel, same thing with this. I was like, should I go see this in the cinema? It was actually available at the time when I could go see it, and I was like, no, I've got better things to do with my life, and I went to go watch something else. I disagree with the first film, but I disagree with this one because I don't like the whole idea of trying to make Venom a good guy. But compared with the first film, the trailer of this had one line that made me laugh. One line and it had to do with when Venom meets Carnage for the first time, and the symbiote kind of goes, "Oh, it's a red one!"
It's a red one. Yeah.
And that line made me laugh. And I was like, oh, maybe, I know this is directed by Andy Serkis. Maybe it's a little bit better than I thought about it. And I thought, nah, can't be bothered. All right, cool. So that's 1 star for Venom. Let there be carnage. Yeah, let there be no more Venom films, please. But if it's anything like the first one, there's a lot of people who just love Venom and went to see the first one, and there's people I know who swear by the first film. I go, oh my god, it's so good, it's so good. I'm like, really, really, and so that's why they made a second one, because enough people thought that I went to go watch it. So it's just our opinion, and you know what they say about opinions. But now we get to the final film. The final program that we saw this week, which is Attack of the Hollywood Cliches. This is Charlie Brooker, written, produced, presented by Rob Lowe, and it's kind of like how we had the history of swear words, that was presented by Nicolas Cage, and you had that one was in series, where each series focused on a different swear word and how the swear word came about, and people talking about it, and people sort of like, about the wonder of swear words and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not for everybody, but this is kind of the similar approach, only they've done it for Hollywood Cliches, and they talked about everything from the baguette phenomenon, which is why to try and make a movie star seem relatable, you always see the movie star going to get their own shopping, and they will always have a brown paper bag with a baguette sticking out of it. They do this, and they back this up by going through all these different films and showing you clips of all these different films. It's like, look, wow. It's Julia Roberts in Notting Hill with a bag with a baguette sticking out of it. Oh, look, it's here's George Clooney with a bag with a baguette sticking out of it. And like you have Rob Lowe obviously having fun in between the scenes. They mentioned that it was filmed during the COVID lockdown. And Rob Lowe, he goes, yeah, the reason why you have actors carrying paper bags is because they're contractually obliged to not let any carbohydrates touch their skin, and the bag is there as a protective barrier. And they just keep saying all these things, and they go through a whole bunch of different Hollywood cliches, from the villain scream to the white savior sort of phenomenon, the magical Negro phenomenon, and they go through all most of them you would have heard of. Some of them I hadn't heard of. Some of them I was like, yeah, cool. I guess that. Yeah, I guess that is a cliche. They have things like, like the homosexual who must die by the end of the film because pretty much to be punished. And they go through, and because this is only, I think it's just over an hour, and they whiz through a lot of Hollywood cliches, and you can look at watching and going, yeah, true, that's happened. Yeah, that happens. They talk about like horror movies, and they go like, is it the killer or is it just a cat? And it's like how you have that thing.
The horror movie cat.
There's some that I wish that they would have gone on. Like, for instance, why the hell do you always have to try and save the damn dog? Well, that for me is a big bugbear. Like I was talking about it, and the number of films where somebody dies because they're saving a dog. I'm like, anyway, but yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You can see the it's also kind of a bit light, because some of these cliches have a darker undertone. They have a darker undertone, and that they don't really go into, because they're being light. They're touching on it, they're letting you know they exist, and then they're moving on to the next one. And they do it quite quickly. They do it quite boom, 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 boom. Let's just keep going. They even go along. They go even into the cliche of if you're in a war movie, never have a girlfriend back home or a wife back home, never be 2 days from retirement, that kind of stuff. But it's really good. I think all in all, I would give it it's a nice, easy watch. It's a high 3. It's a high 3. In between
What's it called again? What's it called again?
It's called Attack of the Hollywood Cliches.
Is that a series or is that just a one?
It's just a one. It's just one.
Just the one.
It's like a one special on Netflix. Attack of the Hollywood Cliches, and I would recommend it. I think especially if you're into film, and if you're listening to this, you are. So if you're into film, watch it, because there's things there that you will nod, and there's things you'll be like, oh yeah,
really
that is a thing. That is a thing. I didn't realize that they did that, and yeah, even when they talk about how they got around the Hays Code, because obviously when the Hays Code came out and you weren't allowed to show anything sexually explicit, and how people got around there and how that developed a whole bunch of cliches on its own. And it showed me and one thing I didn't realize is that there was a time before the Hays Code where they were making films that showed stuff that you would consider risque today.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
The early Tarzan films, they're like, whoa.
Tarzan and his mate gets a special. Tarzan and his mate gets a special, and they actually showed a clip where I was like, that cannot be from a Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movie. And it sent me on a Google search that maybe nobody should be looking at what I was searching for. But it sent me on a Google search, and I was like, oh my God, that wasn't a Tarzan Johnny Weissmuller movie. Yeah. Wow.
Tarzan loincloth. It's like,
yeah.
Google that at your peril.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, and Jane did what? But but anyway, that's it. And I think that's everything today. So, with that all being said, would you guys like to have a guess at who has won this week, either Netflix or cinema?
I think Netflix and Friends. I think, although Sharon's Big Four may sort of.
Would it offset your one? I don't know if there would be enough to save cinema from the Venom effect. So it might be Netflix, and home viewing might be the winner this week.
Yes, and you would be correct. You would be correct that home viewing has got it, because home viewing has got it with let's see, 3, that's 9 plus 4, 13 stars, and Venom essentially sunk cinema.
Wiped out cinema.
Venom sunk cinema. Well, what can we say? I mean, I could have predicted that at the beginning, but we actually had to go watch the film. Shaun, thank you so much for taking the pain, so that I didn't have to. Yeah, take it one for the team. Also, until next week, where we shall be bringing you, as I said it, you can hear it. Dune is hiding in the wings like a sandworm just underneath the surface of the deserts, coming towards us. And finally, next week it shall burst out of the sand and try and eat us all, or something like that. And I will see how many more hours I can get through the audiobook of Dune.
Oh, you're still on the spice melange.
I'm actually quite impressed with myself. I have made it through about 12 hours of a 26-hour book. So
have you got to the Kwisatz Haderach yet?
Well, they've been talking about him from the beginning. We've been talking from the beginning, and I think we've gone to the point where I think he might have arrived, but I don't. But we'll see. Yeah. But anyway, without trying to give any spoilers for book or film, until next week, I will say a goodbye from me.
It's goodbye for me.
And it's a goodbye.
I believe that was Shaun saying it's a goodbye from him.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.